Now here's something that'll flip what you thought you knew about gardening. Some vegetables actually can't stand the hot summer sun. I mean it. You go and plant your lettuce or your spinach out in the full blaze of July, and what happens? It shoots straight up, turns bitter as can be, and quits on you inside of a week. Them crops ain't asking for more sun. They're practically begging you for a little shade. So that dim, neglected corner of your yard, the one you've been ignoring for years, figuring nothing'll ever grow there, well, for these 8 vegetables, that ain't the bad spot. That's the best spot you got. So let me show you exactly what to plant in. But first, let me set you straight on what I mean by shade, 'cause it really matters. When I say shade, I do not mean pitch black. I don't mean that dark ground way under a thick evergreen where the sun never once reaches. Nothing edible's going to grow there, and I ain't going to lie to you about it. What I'm talking about is partial shade. That's a spot that gets maybe 3 to 6 hours of sun a day and shade the rest of the time. Real common along the north side of the house, or down by a fence, or under the high branches of a tree where you get that dappled, speckly light coming through. Bright shade, some folks call it. Here's an easy test. If you can sit out there and read a newspaper without turning a light on, you got enough light to grow these. Now here's the golden rule I want you to remember. In a sunny spot, you grow your fruits, your tomatoes, your peppers, your squash, 'cause making a fruit takes a whole lot of sun. But in a shady spot, you grow your leaves and your roots. And here's the part that surprises everybody. A whole lot of them leafy greens don't just put up with shade, they downright prefer it, especially in the heat of summer, 'cause too much hot sun makes them bolt, shoot right up to seed, and turn bitter. A little shade keeps them cool, sweet, tender, and picking a good long while. Now one fair warning, stuff growing in the shade does come along a mite slower than it would in full sun, so you got to be a touch more patient with it. But it grows. So let's get to the 8. Now I'll fess up to you. I ignored my own shady spot for the longest time. I got this bed along the north side of my house that only catches the morning sun, and for years I just let it sit there growing weeds. Figured it was a lost cause. Then one summer, when my lettuce out in the main garden kept bolting on me in the heat, over and over, I finally thought, well, shoot, let me try it back in the shade. And darned if that shady bed didn't grow me the sweetest, longest-lasting lettuce I ever had in my life. Been my go-to greens patch ever since. So learn from an old fool, and don't waste yours the way I wasted mine for all them years. All right, the 8. Number 1, and it's the king of the shade crops, lettuce. If you only grow one single thing in that corner, you grow lettuce. See, this is a cool weather green through and through, and it flat out hates the summer heat. Out in full sun come July, it bolts and turns so bitter you can't hardly choke it down. But tuck it into a little partial shade, and it stays crisp and sweet and mild for weeks longer than it ever would out in the sun. Them loose-leaf lettuces are the best for this. You pick the outer leaves, and it just keeps right on giving, cut and come again style, like we talked about. So in a shady corner, lettuce ain't settling for second best. It's living its best life. Sow yourself a little every couple weeks, and you'll have fresh salad all season long. Number 2, spinach. Now this is the same story as lettuce, really. Spinach is a cool season green that just about panics in the heat. Soon as it gets hot out and them days get long, it bolts on you in an awful hurry. But grow it in the shade, and you keep it happy and productive a good deal longer into the warm months. Them dark green leaves are just packed full of good-for-you stuff, and spinach grows fast, so you ain't waiting around long. Give it a shady spot with a few hours of gentle morning sun, and it'll reward you with handful after handful of tender leaves for the kitchen. Number 3, kale. Now, kale's a tough old customer. It'll grow near about anywhere, but a lot of folks don't realize it does just fine in partial shade. It'll come along a touch slower and maybe not get quite as big as it would in full sun, but you'll still get plenty of them big ruffled leaves off of it. And here's a little bonus for you. A bit of shade in the summer keeps kale from turning tough and bitter the way it can when it's roasting in full heat. You pick the lower leaves as you need 'em, and the plant just keeps on growing up and up, handing you greens for months. Real workhorse kale is, and it don't mind that shade one little bit. And here's another thing in kale's favor. It's about the last thing standing in the whole garden come fall. A touch of frost actually makes it sweeter, not worse. So that shady bed of kale will keep feeding you long after your tomatoes have given up and gone. Number 4, Swiss chard. And oh, this one's a real gem for a shady spot, one of the very best on the whole list. Chard is about as easy and forgiving as a vegetable gets, and it is happy as can be in partial shade. You get them big glossy leaves with the colorful stems, red, yellow, pink, pretty as any flower you ever planted, and it is a cut-and-come-again champion. You snap off the outer stalks, and it just keeps pushing out brand new ones from the center, right through the whole season and then some. Handles a little heat, handles the shade, hardly ever bothered by a single thing. If you want one plant that'll feed you leafy greens from spring clear to frost with almost no fuss at all, in a spot where nothing else even wants to grow, well, chard's your fella. Hey, quick one before we get to the back 4. If you're finding this useful, do an old fella a favor and tap that subscribe button down there. I share practical, make the most of your garden stuff, just like this every single week. Anyhow, on to number 5. Number 5, arugula. Now, if you like a little pep and pepper in your salad bowl, this green right here is for you, and it loves itself a shady spot. Arugula is another one that bolts in a big hurry when it's hot and sunny, turns harsh and runs to seed fast. But grow it in the shade, and it stays milder, stays more tender, and it hangs around a whole lot longer before it ever thinks about bolting. And it's quick, too. You can be picking leaves in just a few weeks from seed. So for a fast, easy, tasty green to fill in that dim corner, arugula surely earns its keep. And here's a little something. A lot of folks find that arugula grown slow in the shade actually tastes better, not so blast your head off peppery as the stuff baked in full sun. A milder, nuttier kind of a bite. Number 6. And now we swing from the leaves over to the roots, radishes. Now most of your root crops want a fair bit of sun to size up, but radishes are the exception, and they'll do you just fine in partial shade. They might grow a little slower and put a touch more of their energy up into their leafy tops, but you'll still get them crisp, peppery little roots down below the soil. And radishes are about the fastest thing in the whole entire garden. Some are ready to pull in just 3-4 weeks. So they're perfect for tucking into a shady patch for a quick little crop. Oh, and don't you go tossing them radish tops neither. The greens are good eating too, sautéed up in a pan or dropped in a soup. Number 7, beets. Now beets will take partial shade too, though I'll be honest, they do want a little more light than your pure leafy greens do. So give them the sunnier end of that shady corner if you can manage it, a good 4 or 5 hours. Here's the deal. In the shade, your beet roots might come out a bit smaller than they get in full sun. But here's the beautiful thing about a beet. You get 2 vegetables off the one single plant. 'Cause even if that root stays on the small side, them beet greens up top are absolutely delicious, and they cook up just like chard or spinach. So shade or no shade, a row of beets earns its place. You get small sweet roots and a big pile of greens both. You really can't lose with a beet. And number 8, peas. Now here's one a lot of folks don't ever expect to see on a shades list. But peas will give you a crop in partial shade sure enough. See, they're a cool season crop, so they don't much want to be roasting out in the hot afternoon sun anyhow. A little shade actually suits them just fine, especially once the weather starts warming up. Now you'll get a bit less off a shady patch than you would in full sun. I won't fib to you about that. But you'll still get sweet, tender pods to snack on right off the vine. Give 'em a little trellis or some netting to climb up. Tuck 'em in along that shady fence and let 'em ramble. Fresh peas, straight off the vine, out of a spot you had written clean off as useless. Now that right there is a good day. Now them 8 are your headliners, but I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention a few more that'll thrive back there right alongside 'em. Your Asian greens like bok choy and tatsoi, they love a bit of shade. Mustard greens, same deal. Green onions, them scallions, they're happy near about anywhere, shade and all, and you can just keep snipping 'em down and they grow right back. And don't you forget your herbs, neither. A whole lot of herbs take partial shade real well. Your parsley, your cilantro, your mint, your chives. Every one of 'em will grow you a good crop in a shady corner. Cilantro especially is downright glad for the shade, 'cause just like your lettuce, it bolts the second it gets hot out. So if you got more shade than these 8 can fill up, don't you worry. There's plenty more where they came from. Now a few things to keep in mind so you have real success back in that shade. First, you got to know when a spot's just too dark. If you plant these things and they come up all pale and spindly, stretching way out and leaning hard toward what little light there is, well, that corner's too shady even for these fellas, and you got to find yourself a brighter spot. They still need that 3-4 hours of light or good bright shade to do their thing. Second, shady ground stays damp a lot longer since the sun ain't up there drying it out. So you won't need to water near as often, but you do want to keep a sharp eye out for slugs and snails, 'cause them slimy characters just love a cool, damp, shady bed. A little watchfulness there goes a long way. Third, if you got any say in it, morning sun with afternoon shade is the real sweet spot for all these greens. Gives 'em a gentle drink of light early, then shelters 'em from the harsh heat of the day. And fourth, here's a little trick. If there's a white wall or a light-colored fence near your shady spot, it bounces extra light right back onto your plants, and every little bit of that helps. And fifth, before you plant a thing, give that neglected spot a little love. Clear out all them weeds and work in a good helping of compost, 'cause a corner that's been ignored for years is usually poor, tired old dirt. Now, one thing to watch. If your shade is coming from a tree, that tree's roots are down there hogging up all the water and the food, and they'll starve out your little veggies. So back there, you may need to water and feed a bit extra to make up for it. Or better yet, grow in a raised bed or some big containers set right on top, so your vegetables get their own root room, free and clear of that tree. And that's the other beauty of containers in the shade. You can pick a pot up and scooch it around to chase whatever little bit of light you got through the day. Keep sowing a fresh batch of your greens every couple weeks, and that corner will feed you straight through the season. So let's run back through your 8. You got lettuce, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, and arugula for your leafy greens. You got radishes and beets for your roots, and you got peas to climb up that shady fence. Every last one of 'em happy with just a few hours of light, and a good many of 'em downright grateful for the break from that hot sun. So that shady corner you've been walking right past for years, thinking it was good for nothing but weeds and wishful thinking, that, my friend, is a whole extra vegetable garden just sitting there waiting on you. Clear it out, work in a little compost, and plant yourself some greens. You just about doubled your growing space, and it didn't cost you a dime. Anyway, that's about it, really. Go on and put that lazy corner to work. Take care now, and I'll see you next time.